The Newcastle Region Art Gallery has almost been taken over by the exhibition. It fills 3/4 of the available space. 58 works are on display. They come from the private collection of Bob and Josie Ansett of Budget Rent-A-Car fame. The collection is so big, some galleries won't be able to display the entire exhibition. Many of the works are large, but Novocastrians have the chance to see them all. Gallery Education Officer Sonia Keltland says the works reflect the current state of serious art in Australia. The art can be loosely grouped into a number of styles, including surrealism, expressionism and realism. Ms Keltland says one of the better-known artists featured is Sydney-sider Mandy Martin. Her work here, titled Chasm 2, depicts an industrial scene. Rod McRae's triptych, described as a sublime romantic landscape, is also eye-catching. The Young Australians exhibition remains at the Newcastle Region Art Gallery until September the 11th.
Dr. Swan explained today that medical science fraud does happen, although its effects aren't always felt by the general public. For this reason, he says, the Australian scientific community must act itself, or governments will have to step in. But if fraud often doesn't directly
why do
affect
it
the
if it's not that important?
Why
bother?
Well, academic careers rest on how many publications you get into the fancy medical journals, and the more you get, the better your career prospects. And that's something that medical science has to change, the way of assessing people for jobs. Getting grants from outside bodies, they look at how many publications you've got, how big a research establishment you've got. All that depends on the output of your research and your reputation.
So how can the community guard against it?
I think that there are certain institutions in this country which you don't really need to worry about. Most university establishments, things like the Cancer Council's National Heart Foundation, because people are looking over each other's shoulders in those organisations. The organisations we have to be watchful of here are the small private research institutions, and I believe that each state government and the federal government has to empower the Australian Academy of Science to look over these small research institutions before they're allowed tax deductibility for their research.
And you're warning, of course, that if they don't, then the government itself might take action.
Well, that's right, and I don't think you can legislate to control how scientists behave in their labs, and the minute they start passing laws to stop scientific fraud, the whole thing's going to fall apart.
Newcastle Knights started the year in fine form with a good win over Manly in the Herald Challenge Cup at the International Sports Centre. Monster crowds supported the Knights, proving that rugby league is alive and well in Newcastle. Always competitive, the Knights played tough, no-nonsense football throughout the season, with wins against Wests, Souths, Parramatta, and perhaps the highlight, the win against Balmain in March. But the team lost a lot more than it won, and at training this week, coach Alan McMahon has been preparing his players for their grand final, the battle to avoid the wooden spoon. Sunday's game against the North Sydney Bears at the International Sports Centre should be another battle of the forwards, with the Bears having one of the biggest packs in the competition. Unfortunately, Kiwi lock Mark Graham seems unlikely to play, but no doubt the greatest success of the 1988 season, the Knights supporters, will be there in their thousands.
Both Newcastle and Monaro needed to win today to improve their chances of making the semi-finals. Disaster struck for Newcastle in the 16th minute when Bazza Gampello gave Craig Carter no chance of stopping this kick. Being down 1-0 seemed to pep up the locals, and they started combining well. In the 35th minute, Robbie Holden evened up the scores, compliments of the crossbar. But before Newcastle had stopped celebrating, Monaro was back in front, again through Gampello. Monaro scored again before half-time. Marko Perenovic headed in this magnificent goal to give the visitors a 3-1 lead at half-time. Both sides added a goal each in the second half for a full-time score of 4-2 to Monaro. Newcastle play again at home tomorrow. They take on Canberra, a game postponed from last month.
Organisers set up the Hunter Rowing Club at Speers Point 12 months ago to establish rowing seriously in Newcastle. During its short history, the club has climbed from 11 members with 1 boat to 75 members with 2 pairs, 4 fours and an 8. Rusty Robertson's visit today was in his capacity as the New South Wales coaching director. A man with numerous gold medals from coaching teams in Commonwealth and Olympic Games, plus world titles, Rusty's 45 years in rowing have helped him develop the best training methods for success. Rusty says it's important to have good gear, commitment and rowers who feel comfortable on the water.
I think, peak physical fitness and toughness, race hardness, all that sort of thing comes into it.
You've come to Newcastle today. How do you see the future of rowing here?
I think this area's got a tremendous future. The number of people that live here, of course, and the number of young people that we've seen since we've been here that have been on the water out here, there's terrific potential here.
Began at a quick pace, with Newcastle immediately pressing the Canberra goal. After yesterday's disappointing loss to Monaro, the local boys came out breathing fire, and after the 4th minute, Brett Porter headed in the first of his 4 goals for the day. 13 minutes later, the other star of the match, Robert Holden, deceived the Canberra goalkeeper for the first of his 2 goals. Holden's second goal came 10 minutes later. Canberra were completely outclassed, with Newcastle's goalkeeper Craig Carter only really tested once, punching the ball over the back of the net. The best goal of the day came from this fine solo effort from Porter, cutting the Canberra defence to shreds. Newcastle Austral played well not only in attack but also in defence, and coach Willie Gallagher must be feeling confident about the semi-finals in 3 weeks' time.
In Newcastle, a similar rally organised to coincide with the Sydney protest was a low-key event. Organisers of the march were not helped by the day dawning to a balmy 25 degrees and an alluring surf.
What are most of your friends doing today?
Skating. Just skating around town, having a bit of fun.
I'm just walking around, going shopping, having a look around town.
At noon, only a handful of dedicated protesters gathered at Pacific Park for the march through the central business district. But even that wasn't to prove easy to start. Somewhere along the line, times were confused, and when the marchers set out, they were promptly sent back by police who were expecting them 10 minutes later. Eventually, the march began, protesters carrying banners and chanting anti-Metherall slogans. At Civic Park, numbers were swelled slightly by members of the public who listened to student speakers calling for the abandonment of Dr. Metherall's proposed changes to the education system. Organisers of the rally say they were not disappointed by the small turnout, claiming most students had travelled to the Sydney rally. They also were adamant the cause was not losing support in Newcastle.
There are a few people, like the younger years especially, who aren't quite as aware of things, and that's only understandable because they are only 13, 14, things like that. The people who are here today are mainly seniors, year 9 and 10, 11, and they're the people who it will affect. And of the people I personally know in our school, most people are aware of the changes and are quite concerned about them.
Good afternoon, I'm Belinda Borissow. Newcastle's Urban Transit Authority bus services were disrupted today during a stop work meeting by bus drivers. The stoppage is the result of a government proposal to reduce night services.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
It's a big breakthrough. We've been battling this for quite some time now.
The cause of the optimism is an announcement made by the Minister for Administrative Services, Matt Singleton, last night. The government has decided that from the 1st of November, growers choosing to transport their wool to Sydney for sale, when it is on a direct rail link to Newcastle, will incur an extra charge of $1.50 a bale. Presently, growers are charged $4.80 a bale to send their wool from anywhere in the state to the selling centre of their choice. However, the decision falls far short of solving the brokers' biggest headache. The problem arose last year when the Australian Wool Corporation, the Wool Council of Australia and the major wool shipping companies signed an agreement altering wool purchasing arrangements. In the past, the shipping companies have paid the cost of transport from the selling centre. The new decision reversed that, costing growers who sold their wool in Newcastle up to $4 a bale extra to transport it to Sydney. To maintain their livelihood, Newcastle brokers are passing on only 50% of those charges, which they estimate will cost them around $500,000 this financial year. According to Bruce Asquith, chairman of the Newcastle Brokers Association, growers are remaining loyal to Newcastle, and the new incentive to sell here can only be good for the city.
Industries, there are a lot of people in Newcastle benefit from the wool sales in Newcastle. The hospitality industry, for one, where wool growers now almost to a man attend wool sales, and when they attend wool sales they stay for 2, 3 or 4 nights, and of course a lot of people around the city benefit when that occurs.
Newcastle is the biggest police recruiting ground outside Sydney. 2 recruitment drives are held each year and interest in police careers is still strong. However, interviewers say many applicants aren't aware of tough new entry requirements. A school certificate with a 4-year trade course is the absolute minimum, and preference still goes to higher school certificate students. Officers say the requirements are essential for new training courses.
A new training program has started recently down in Goulburn, known as the Prep Education Program, and the study apparently is rather intensive. And if you aren't reasonably smart, well, you're just not going to pass the study aspect of it down in Goulburn.
Police say only about 1/3 of the applicants had the required academic qualifications. Others missed out because they were over the maximum age of 34 years and 3 months. The campaign has been successful, but there are still people police want.
We do encourage people with multicultural skills, talents, bilingual persons to join the police force because they're a huge benefit to us.
And for those still looking for work, the Hunter Development Board could have the answer. Members of the CES and the Department of Employment, Education and Training were invited to take a close look at a new job search training program being conducted at the centre. The pilot scheme has been set up at 40 locations across the state. Unemployed people are encouraged to use group support to improve their confidence and presentation at job interviews. They also have the board's computer and office equipment to polish up their applications. The scheme has worked beyond expectations. More than 70% of participants have so far found work.
I think the secret is the participants gaining confidence in themselves, the skills they have, and then being able to present those skills to prospective employers.
Job Hunt was just one of many employment training programs conducted by the board and recognised by Newcastle CES manager Ian Sinclair. He presented a plaque to board members in recognition of their achievements.
I'm almost overwhelmed.
In last year's first grade grand final, Lakes defeated Souths 24-16, and once again those 2 teams will feature in Sunday's clash. It's the 3rd consecutive year the 2 teams have met, and the 5th in a row featuring Lakes. The Seagulls have won the last 3 grand finals, chasing a record 4th straight victory when they meet their arch rivals. In competition rounds, the grand finalists share a win apiece. In the major semi 2 weeks ago, Souths, in their 11th straight win of the season, beat Lakes 8-0 in a very close, tough-fought match. While Souths go into the game as slight favourites, Lakes have proved, in the last 3 years at least, they win the one that counts, the grand final. NBN will televise highlights of the game Monday night at 10:30.
Title holders will beat pace. Title.
This is the grand final got off to a spectacular start. Unsettling tactics in the very first minute didn't impress some players who took offence.
More experienced players obviously are putting a little bit of a biffo onto the South players and to unsettle them because they are a lot less experienced.
Neither side could cross for a try in the first half, with 5 penalties contributing to the half-time score of 6-4 to Souths. Peter Parr started the Lions' second half blitz with a superb individual try in the 4th minute.
Picked up by Peter Parr to score. Non-football Peter Parr. My word. Oh yeah.
10 minutes later, and Lakes lost any chance of making it 4 premierships in a row.
Donaldson on the outside to Big David Fleming. They're in the holes. Back this time it goes to Nick O'Brien. It's quick O'Brien. He'll score. Oh yeah.
Souths then wrapped up their first premiership since 1976 through Steve Robinson.
Got the good pass away to Tim Butler. Butler down the further play away from Bates. Will go all the way. Go away to Robbo. Stevie Robbo goes over in the corner.
Down 23 points to 4 and only 8 minutes left, Lakes put their only try on the board.
Back it goes this time to Fowler. The fortuitous ball outside. A Seabone score. So Lakes have broken the duck on tries anyway.
One of South's most outstanding players was goal-kicking centre Peter Parr. He scored a total of 20 points, including 2 tries.
Intercepted by Peter Parr. See you later, Alligator. And down he goes, Peter Parr. No worries.
It was a brilliant effort from Souths, who had been waiting 3 years for today's sweet taste of victory.
The Congress has brought the leading lights in cross-cultural psychology from 35 countries who will spend 4 days listening and contributing to the wealth of ideas and advice. It's a relatively rare field. The association has only 400 members worldwide. But according to Congress chairperson Professor Daphne Keats, the issues it explores are numerous.
And, what we're interested in is exploring these common behaviours and common ideas, but at the same time looking at the differences and the effect of the differences upon people's ideas, their social behaviour, the way they learn, how they bring children up, what they regard as normal and abnormal behaviour.
Professor Lorna from the United States presented the opening speech today. He'll be followed by a long list of identities from South America, Asia and Africa, to name a few. Their thoughts will be a lesson not only for the attending psychologists but for Newcastle University's cross-cultural students who will also be attending. Though according to Professor Keats, probably the greatest lesson of all could be learnt by Australia's politicians, right now caught up in the immigration row.
People who are trained in cross-cultural psychology do have a broader base upon which to make their judgments. I'm not saying that it leads them to particular judgments. It's up to everyone to have their own point of view, but at least they will know on what basis to make those judgments and be able to make them in a much better informed way.
Well, would you like to see John Howard at this conference?
I would. I would like Mr. Hawke to be here. I would have liked Mr. Hayden to have been here, but he has other greater things to do at present.
That's fine.
The properties front Maitland Road between Nile and Valencia Streets. The newly formed Mayfield Community Consultative Committee says they've been vacant for some time, pending reported redevelopment as a major shopping centre. But it's feared those plans have been shelved indefinitely. The committee was established by Mayfield Police. and has approached the Newcastle City Council with its concerns. Committee members claim the buildings are a haven for derelicts and vandals. Some nearby business people agree with the call for demolition.
I think they should be demolished immediately. They are certainly an eyesore to the district, to the area and city of Newcastle, for where we are trying to improve the image of this area, particularly commercially and from a tourist attraction. I do notice that undesirables are often moving in and out of the buildings at various stages, and I'm very concerned that we may have a disaster on our hands.
Mr Marwini agrees with committee concerns that the buildings are a fire risk. Others also support the committee's views on the buildings.
The way they are at present, it's serving no useful purpose to anybody. Nobody knows what's going on around here with the building. There's been all sorts of rumours around, but at the moment they're just being run down and derelict. Vandals and kids are getting in there, and there's broken glass, and there's very unsafe at the moment, I feel.
Council has now served notice on the building owners to clean up surrounding areas within 30 days and demolish the buildings within 60 days from August the 9th. Mr Coffey says the outlook for the area is bleak if something isn't done soon.
They'll just gradually fall down, it'll just detract from the shopping of the area, people won't come here.
Belinda Borissow reporting for NBN News.
Winning entries were presented to the public at this afternoon's ceremony. Contestants had been asked to design innovative and imaginative shapes based sometimes on a single line. Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton presented the winners with their prizes. The preschool section was won by Ryan Grant. There were two winners in the infants section, Drew McClear and Jacqueline Carney. Christy Stone won the primary section, and the junior high winner was Georgie Hazard. Yvonne Doolan won the adult category. Also on exhibition at the library was a series of historic posters and photographs celebrating the importance of books in our society.
More than 400 student hockey players are taking part in the championships, which continue through until the finals on Friday. 15 universities have teams in the men's division, with 14 represented in the women's section. The Newcastle women had a mixed day, downing Wollongong 3-0 and then losing to Western Australia 2-0. The men, however, were in fine form, downing last year's champions New South Wales 4-0 and then in this match beating Melbourne 3-0. The home team led 1-0 at half-time, and 10 minutes into the second half, Steve Brinley scored the goal that secured the win. Of course, it's not all serious competition at the championships. The boys from Sydney University amused themselves by forming a human pyramid.